In 1923, an American agricultural researcher named Franklin Hiram King returned from an extended journey through China, Korea, and Japan with detailed observations that should have completely revolutionized Western farming practices forever and eliminated dependency on purchased fertilizer inputs. His meticulous notes describe something that American soil scientists initially found extremely difficult to believe was even possible. Asian farmers had cultivated the exact same fields continuously for over 4,000 years without ever depleting their soil fertility or experiencing the declining yields that plagued American farmland. After just a few decades of cultivation, they used absolutely no synthetic fertilizers because synthetic fertilizers did not even exist during most of that remarkably long agricultural history. Yet their soils remained dark and rich and teeming with earthworm populations that absolutely dwarfed anything found in American farmland despite centuries more use. King documented the specific practices that maintained this seemingly perpetual fertility in remarkable detail. One practice appeared in virtually every farming region he visited across all 3 countries without exception. After rice harvest, farmers carefully returned the hulls and straw to their fields rather than burning or discarding this material, as American farmers routinely did with their crop residues. The material disappeared into soil within months through biological decomposition, and the plots that received regular hull applications consistently produced significantly larger harvests than neighboring plots that did not receive this treatment. King published his remarkable observations in a groundbreaking book titled Farmers of 40 Centuries, that became required reading in agricultural colleges throughout the United States during the 1920s and 1930s. Then the synthetic fertilizer industry exploded dramatically after World War II when weapons factories converted to fertilizer production, and suddenly a book about successful farming without any purchased inputs became commercially very inconvenient for powerful industrial interests. Agricultural colleges stopped assigning King's work. Extension services trained by fertilizer company programs never mentioned the practices he documented. The knowledge that Asian farmers had accumulated across 4 millennia was dismissed as primitive and replaced with dependency on annual chemical purchases. Rice mills in America began burning millions of tons of hulls annually as waste. The material that Asian farmers valued as essential to soil fertility became smoke rising from disposal piles, because the fertilizer industry had no way to profit from something farmers could obtain for free. This is the story of rice hulls, the free soil amendment that grows earthworms 3 times larger than normal. And the modern rice industry generates approximately 150 million tons of rice hulls annually worldwide. The majority of this material is burned, landfilled, or otherwise disposed of as waste. The burning releases carbon dioxide and particulate pollution into the atmosphere. The landfilling consumes space and squanders nutrients that could rebuild depleted agricultural soils. The disposal represents a continuous choice to destroy resources rather than utilize them. American rice mills produce approximately 2 million tons of hulls annually. This quantity could amend millions of acres of agricultural land and gardens if distributed rather than destroyed. The silica, carbon, and structural benefits would improve soil across the country. Instead, the material becomes smoke or landfill volume, while farmers purchase synthetic amendments manufactured from fossil fuels. The fertilizer industry has no incentive to promote rice hull utilization. A farmer who obtains free hulls from a local rice mill does not purchase bagged amendments from fertilizer manufacturers. A gardener who builds soil fertility with free agricultural byproducts does not buy Miracle Grow or Scott's products. The industry business model depends on customers who believe they must purchase fertility rather than build it from available materials. Agricultural extension services rarely mention rice hulls, despite extensive research confirming their benefits. Extension programs receive substantial funding from fertilizer industry sources. The information that extension agents distribute reflects the perspectives of their funders. A soil-building approach that eliminates fertilizer purchases does not align with funder interests, and therefore does not appear in extension recommendations. Garden centers stock dozens of bagged soil amendments, but almost never carry rice hulls. The products that generate profit margin receive shelf space. Rice hulls cannot command premium prices because the material is abundant and available from mills. As a disposal problem, they will often provide for free. Retail economics exclude products that customers could obtain without payment. The system at every level is designed to prevent you from learning that free alternatives to purchased products exist and work better than the products you're being sold. The acquisition of rice hulls requires minimal effort for gardeners located anywhere near rice production regions. Rice mills accumulate hulls continuously throughout milling operations and face ongoing disposal challenges. Many mills will provide hulls free to anyone willing to haul them away. The mill saves disposal costs, while the gardener obtains premium soil amendment at no charge. A few phone calls to local mills often reveals sources that are happy to provide unlimited quantities. Agricultural supply stores in rice-growing regions sometimes stock hulls and bags for convenience. The bagged product costs more than direct mill sourcing, but remains dramatically cheaper than processed soil amendments. A 50-pound bag of rice hulls typically costs a fraction of an equivalent volume of perlite or vermiculite while providing superior benefits. Online suppliers ship rice hulls nationally for gardeners without local rice production. Shipping costs add expense, but the product remains cost-effective compared to commercial alternatives. Gardeners in non-rice regions can access the same material that Asian farmers have valued for millennia through modern distribution networks. Parboiled rice hulls offer a variation that some gardeners prefer for specific applications. The parboiling process partially decomposes hull structure, accelerating nutrient release and reducing the tendency of fresh hulls to temporarily bind nitrogen during initial decomposition. Parboiled hulls cost more but may suit gardeners seeking faster effects. Fresh hulls work excellently when applied with nitrogen-rich materials that offset initial nitrogen binding. Combining rice hulls with grass clippings, manure, or other nitrogen sources eliminates any temporary nutrient deficit while allowing hull decomposition to proceed. The combination produces faster soil improvement than either material alone. Application rates vary based on soil conditions and improvement goals. A 1 to 2 inch layer incorporated into garden beds provides substantial benefits for most situations. Heavier applications suit severely compacted or depleted soils that need aggressive structural improvement. Light annual applications maintain soil quality after initial building. The hulls can be incorporated immediately or allowed to decompose on the surface as mulch. Surface application provides weed suppression and moisture retention, while gradually incorporating through earthworm activity and natural processes. Incorporation provides faster mixing with existing soil but requires more initial labor. Results become visible within weeks as earthworm populations respond to the new food source. Worm casting piles appear throughout amended beds. Soil texture loosens noticeably. Drainage improves after rain events. The biological transformation accelerates across the first growing season and continues for years. The earthworm response to rice hulls deserves special attention because it demonstrates biological processes that synthetic fertilizers cannot replicate. Earthworms consume decomposing organic matter and excrete castings that concentrate nutrients in plant-available forms. The casting process transforms nutrients locked in organic material into forms that plant roots can immediately absorb. A thriving earthworm population essentially processes soil continuously, making nutrients available faster than decomposition alone would achieve. Rice hulls provide ideal earthworm food due to their gradual decomposition rate and favorable moisture retention. Fast decomposing materials like grass clippings provide brief food abundance followed by scarcity. Rice hulls decompose slowly enough to sustain worm populations across extended periods. The consistent food supply supports population growth rather than boom and bust cycles. Worms in rice, hull-amended soil grow dramatically larger than worms in unamended soil. The size difference typically reaches 3 times normal body mass within one growing season. Larger worms produce more castings per individual. They also create larger burrow channels that improve soil aeration and water infiltration. Population density increases alongside individual size. The abundant food supply supports more worms per cubic foot of soil. Doubled or tripled population density combined with tripled individual size produces 6 to 9 times more casting production than unamended soil. The soil building effect multiplies rapidly. The castings themselves contain higher nutrient concentrations than surrounding soil. Worm digestive processes concentrate nitrogen, phosphorus, and micronutrients in castings at levels several times higher than the material worms consumed. The worms are essentially manufacturing slow-release fertilizer from rice hulls continuously throughout the growing season. No synthetic fertilizer can replicate this biological nutrient cycling. Synthetic products release nutrients in chemical forms that are immediately available, but also immediately susceptible to leaching and runoff. Worm castings release nutrients in biologically bound forms that plants access over extended periods without losses to groundwater. The bag of rice hulls waiting at your local mill represents soil fertility that the fertilizer industry has spent decades ensuring you would never discover existed. A gardener could obtain rice hulls for free or nearly free and build soil that feeds itself through earthworm activity for years. They would watch worms grow to sizes they never imagined possible. They would see soil texture transform from compacted and dead to loose and alive. They would harvest crops from fertility they built rather than fertility they bought. Miracle-Gro and Scott's and every other fertilizer brand know exactly what rice hulls do to soil. Their scientists have read the same research that confirms hull benefits. Their agronomists understand why Asian farmers maintained fertility for 4,000 years. They choose not to tell you because your free soil amendment is their lost sale. 150 million tons of rice hulls burn or rot in landfills every year. That material could rebuild depleted soils across entire continents. It could grow earthworm populations that manufacture fertility for free. It could end dependence on purchased amendments for millions of gardeners and farmers. Instead, it becomes smoke and landfill volume, because free does not generate corporate revenue. Franklin Hiram King carefully documented this traditional knowledge in his groundbreaking 1923 book. Asian farmers accumulated it through careful observation across 4,000 continuous years of successful cultivation. The information has always been readily available to anyone willing to look beyond what fertilizer companies actively promote and their sponsored extension services recommend. Worms grow 3 times bigger within a single season. Soil feeds itself through continuous biological nutrient cycling. Costs nothing, or nearly nothing, from mills disposing of it anyway. Available everywhere, rice is grown and processed commercially. They systematically hid this because your permanent soil independence represents their permanent lost revenue stream. Now you know exactly what they buried from public awareness. Now you understand precisely why they buried it so thoroughly. If this opened something important for you, subscribe and hit the bell. Every single like and share spreads what the fertilizer industry has deliberately hidden while burning 150 million tons of free soil amendment every single year. See you in the next one.